In this video, we'll examine some of the details about Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon that are problematic to say the least. The LDS claim is that Joseph Smith is a prophet of God and the Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus Christ. To help us better understand if these claims are true, let's have a look into the person of Joseph Smith and the structure of the Book of Mormon. Smith was a treasure hunter using a seer stone in order to see buried treasure underneath the earth. This was his main line of work until he became a prophet. This line of dishonest work also led Smith to legal trouble. He faced a trial and was convicted as a disorderly person and an impostor. Smith also engaged in polygamy. He had around 30 to 40 wives, and out of these wives, 11 to 13 were already married to other men. If this wouldn't be bad already, at least 7 of the wives were minors, the youngest of them being 14 years old. Smith was publicly preaching monogamy at the time he himself started practicing polygamy. Smith also received a convenient revelation from God concerning his legal wife, Emma, to get her support for Smith's lust for more wives. God told Emma, through Smith of course, that he would destroy Emma if she didn't approve these new practices that were not even in the official church doctrine at the time. For the other unwilling women, Smith got a different kind of revelation. If they refused to marry him, an angel with a drawn sword would kill Smith. What? This is not the God of the Bible. If something, this is the God of Islam. Muhammad had exactly the same methods and lusted after many women. If there were any kind of moral problems, God would then give him convenient revelations that he was allowed to marry this or that woman. One of the women he married was already married to his adopted son. Like Joseph, Muhammad was also attracted to minors. His favorite wife, Aisha, was 6 years old when they got married, and the marriage was consummated by the time she was 9. This is spiritual abuse. A man in power is exploiting his status to trick other people to gratify his own fleshly desires. Polygamy was never endorsed in the Bible. God gave stern warnings to the kings of Israel regarding having many wives, and both David and Solomon suffered the consequences of engaging in polygamy. The LDS Church abolished polygamy in 1890 by the prophet Wilford Woodruff. Why did God change his mind for this short period of time? Over time, Smith's polygamous practices started to cause up rumors, so to combat this, Smith gathered 31 witnesses to sign an affidavit saying that Smith did not practice polygamy. Many of these witnesses were also secret polygamists at the time they signed, one being Smith's plural wife. 2 of the signers were the apostles and future prophets Wilford Woodruff, who later abolished polygamy, and John Taylor. These 2 were aware of Smith's practices at the time they signed, so lying and dishonesty is not only limited to the first Mormon prophet. Mormons have been taught, or led to believe, that Smith used golden plates to translate the Book of Mormon. The LDS art has many depictions of this process taking place. Only in 2013, the real translation process was confirmed by the LDS Church. New artwork was also released to show how the translation process actually happened. Since the golden plates are nowhere to be found, no one can test or prove if the translation is correct, believing that there ever were any golden plates. We can, however, test Smith's ability as a translator from the Book of Abraham. This was an ancient document that the Mormons purchased from a traveling salesman and gave it to Smith to be translated. Smith claimed this document was written by Abraham himself. Smith started the translation process, and today we know that piece of work as the Book of Abraham. The Egyptologists, both Mormon and non-Mormon, agree that the so-called translation that Smith produced is utter gibberish. Not only is the actual translation wrong, but so is the timing of the papyri. It was several hundred years newer, dated between the 3rd and 1st century BC, and could not have been written by Abraham. Smith also made a new translation of the Bible, the Joseph Smith translation, where he wrote prophecies about himself and modified the person and deity of Jesus. For Christians, this is a damnable offense, straight to hell type of thing. But since Joseph Smith was a prophet, a seer, and a revelator, he hears from God and cannot be wrong. He set out to fix the Bible from its corrupt state. If this is true and the Book of Mormon is also the most correct book that should not need correcting, why then does the Book of Mormon hold many passages from the King James Bible that Smith later corrected? What does all this tell about Smith's character and credibility of the Book of Mormon? Not only do we have evidence that Smith was not a true prophet and that the Book of Mormon is not the Word of God, but we can see that throughout his youth and adult life, Smith was a deceiving and dishonest individual who got revelations for his own gain. He had the motives for doing all this. First one is financial greed. As a prophet, he could stop the treasure hunting business because he was financially supported by his followers. Second one is sexual lust. Smith engaged in polygamy and polyandry, having over 30 wives to satisfy his lust. Third one is the pursuit of power. He gained a lot of power through his status as a prophet among his followers, but he also tried to extend his power by running for president of the United States, among other things, such as the Council of 50 that is outside the scope of this video. Just because Joseph Smith had the motives doesn't mean that he was a false prophet. However, both Mormonism and Christianity claim to be rooted in history, and only one of them has historical evidence on their side to back up this claim: Christianity. The Book of Mormon relies completely on truth claims made by Joseph Smith. There is nothing to back up these claims: no historical records, no archaeological records, nothing. On top of this, we have clear evidence that Smith made a fraudulent translation that is called the Book of Abraham. The reason for making this video is to show Mormons, ex-Mormons, and those considering joining Mormonism is that Joseph Smith was a liar and a false prophet. Even if the foundations of Mormonism crumble, it doesn't mean that all is lost and there is no God. The Bible stands firm and withstands the careful historical scrutiny where the Book of Mormon doesn't. I want to encourage you to read the Bible and find the real Jesus who is revealed to all those who seek him.